Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Shri Radha Krishnaya Namaha. Om Shri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, saha viryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone, in person and those who are watching it, the classes remotely. We are almost... Microphone? Better now? Can you see the yellow bars move? No. On the monitor, on the laptop, do you see the yellow moving? Yellow bars for the audio moving? No. Well, when I'm talking, they're not going to... No? You can up it a little bit more there, yeah. Okay, you can hear me at the, this is too loud. It's an echoey, it's echo. Can you hear me at the back? Okay, we are good, a little bit. So the problem with the echo is it comes really bad on the recording. And you know, Swamiji is the expert in sound and light and Vedanta and everything else. So I just go by what he tells. You good? Okay. Kakhalu nalang kriyate drishta drishtartha sadhana patiyan amuya kanthastitaya Prashnottara Ratnamalikaya. Muktim labhet kasmat, Mukunda bhaktehe, Mukunda hakkaha, Yastarayeta vidyam, Kacha vidyam, Yadatmano spurtihi, Kasya na shokaha, Yasyat akrodhaha, Kim sukham, Tushtihi, Ko Raja, Ranjanakrita, Kaschashva, Nicha sevako yasyat, Ko Mai, Parameshaha, Kah Indrajalayate, Prapanchoyam. So we stopped here in the last class and talking about who is Kaha Mai, who is, so firstly we saw there's a switch, I forgot to mention, I mentioned it in the last class. There is a switch in this verse and the following several verses from a more social, dharmic perspective to more of Vedanta, more of basic Vedanta. And this verse says, who is a Mai, and we saw Mai literally means one who performs magic, who is a magician. But here answer was Ishvara. Ishvara was compared to magician, because we saw just like a magician pulls out things from his sleeves or his hat or behind the ear, Ishvara pulls out, quote unquote, this entire creation, but not from behind his ear or from the sleeves or from a hat, but from himself. So this entire universe is formed from himself. And kaha an indrajalayate, this entire creation, prapancha ayam, this entire creation is covered. Indrajala is literally, there must be a Puranic story to this, the net of Lord Indra, but we're not concerned with the Puranic context here. So Ishvara, after creating this entire universe, covers our true nature with this net of ignorance. And you heard Swamiji use the term veil of ignorance in many of his classes. And today we're not going to get much stories, because the most of today's class is basic Vedanta, Vedantic definitions. So if you come here to listen to some of the funny stories, that I said today, you might be a little disappointed, but the definitions we're going to see here are crucial to understanding Advaita Vedanta. Kaswapna nibaha jagrat vyavaharaha satyamapi cha kim brahma. So we've already begun this class with a bang. What is Satyam and what is Brahma? But before that, the verse says, Kaha swapna nibaha. What resembles, or what is compared to, what resembles a dream? And the answer is Jagrat Vyavahara. Jagrat, you might know, means the waking state. Vyavahara means the activities or the transactions or the experiences. So what these activities of the waking state is like a dream. That's the answer. The question is, what is like a dream? And the answer is our waking state. For some of us, this might be true literally even when you're awake. You get up in the morning and then you're still kind of not quite there. So you might be going about your activities as though like in a dream. But here, to understand this verse, Kaha swapna nibaha, what is like a dream, we first need to know what happens in the dream state when we are dreaming from a Vedantic perspective. So in our dreams, when we dream, all the interactions, all the experiences we have are quote unquote internal. We may have many, sometimes you have multiple dreams in the same night. And they could be pleasant, they could be nightmares. I have to say, people put a lot, psychologists or these people who interpret dreams put a lot of emphasis on what a dream means. From a Vedantic perspective, it doesn't matter. Whatever your dream means, and then people get afraid if they had some bad dream that the dream is going to come true in real life. We don't know that, right? So in the dream, supposing you see a tiger in your dream, and the tiger sees you and hungry, the tiger is hungry and is getting ready to attack you. I don't know how much time the tiger needs to get ready to attack you. The tiger sees you, it's hungry, it chases you, it's coming after you. And in the dream, you're afraid and you begin to run. And you're running really, really fast. You're running frantically. You might be sweating. Your heart is thud, 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 going fast. You are absolutely panicked because the tiger probably can run faster than you. At least it can run faster than me, I know that. So all these experiences you have are very real to you in the dream. The tiger looking at you, thinking you're food, chasing you, you running, getting afraid. But what happens when you wake up? When you suddenly wake up from your dream and you see yourself lying on your comfortable bed. Your heart is not pounding, you're not sweating, you're not palpitating. What happened to the tiger in your dream? So the moment you wake up, all the experiences that you had in the dream, the nightmare, the scary, the fearful experiences you had in your dream become unreal upon waking up. They are no longer real to you. It's no longer a real experience when you wake up. So in the same way, in Jagrat Avastha, in the waking state, all the experiences you have that seem very, very real. In the waking state, it seems very real because we are awake and we are having these scary experiences, these difficult experiences, the diagnosis that we don't want to hear, the depression that is there in waking state. So in the Jagrat Avastha and waking state, all the experiences become real, but what happens when you quote unquote wake up figuratively, when you become enlightened, when you recognize, when you know that all these experiences are just experiences. They are not affecting you, the waker. So when you wake up, get enlightened, all the experiences become unreal, just like the experiences in the dream became unreal when you woke up. So that's why there is a commentary by Gaudapada Karika, a commentary in the Mandukya Upanishad, which says, as the objects, literally this is the translation for that, as the objects in a dream are seen to be unreal upon waking, so too are the objects in the waking state seen to be unreal by the wise upon enlightenment. Because both the objects that you see in the dream and the objects, the experiences that you have in the waking state, both are objects of perception. They are objects, they are not you, the subject. So too, the objects in the waking state are seen to be unreal by the wise upon waking up. So this perceived reality of the experiences of the waking state are just as unreal, as transient as the experiences we perceive in the dream. Another example is, we've spoken about, is the rope snake example that is often given in Vedanta. So what happens when you're walking on a dimly lit path, there is something on the floor, on the ground, that you think is a snake, you see it as a snake, you get afraid. That fear that comes because of seeing that snake, what happens to it when, I mentioned in one class, your guru is walking with you, a modern guru has his or her cell phone and flashes the cell phone light, flashlight. Torchlight is in India, I think they still have torchlights in India, right? In these wedding processions, especially in the villages, you'll see these huge, the bearers carrying these huge torchlights. So when the guru shows that flashlight, points that flashlight at that snake, what happens to your fear that came because of that snake? So quote unquote, when you wake up from that, seeing that snake, seeing that thing on the ground as a snake, when you wake up with the help of these teachings, with the help of the guru, the snake is falsified and you see that it's only a rope. So both the dream and waking state experiences seem very real during the experience when we are going through it. When you see that thing on the ground and you think it to be a snake, it's a real feeling for you. That fear that comes, if you're afraid of snakes, of course I have to say that many people keep snakes as pets, and perhaps you don't have that fear, but presume this is a poisonous snake, a python, and showing its fangs. So these experiences, when you're seeing that snake, that fear feels very real. Just as that dream tiger chasing you in your dream, that fear felt very real. But when you woke up from your dream, the tiger is gone, the fear is gone. When you quote unquote wake up when you wake up from this dream of Jagrat Avastha, from this waking state, when you find that the snake is falsified, you no longer have the fear. So therefore this verse is comparing kaha swapna nibaha, what is like a dream. It's comparing the waking state, the activities, the experiences of the waking state to those of a dream. The second half, apicha kim, and what is satyam? Satyam, that which exists, that which is real, the nature of truth. Several definitions for satyam in the dictionary, but here it's talking obviously about satyam in a very Vedantic sense. So what is real? Brahma, Brahma or consciousness. So the truth of everything in the metaphor, in the sleep, dream and waking state metaphor above. So in the waking state, you are present, you as consciousness. Consciousness, in the waking state, you are present, you consciousness, along with an active mind, because your mind is awake. In the dream state, you consciousness are present or exist along with a dream mind, if you can call it a dream mind. And then when you go to deep sleep, when you are in dreamless sleep, you consciousness are still present along with a mind that is no longer active, that is no longer in dream. The mind has kind of resolved. So in all these three states, the Jagrat Avastha, the waking state, the dream state, the Swapna Avastha, and the Sushupti, we've not covered Sushupti, but the deep sleep state, the mind, the three states of the mind keep changing. But what is unchanging is you as consciousness. So you so I know you've heard Swamiji say this. Supposing you think that when you go to sleep, you're not going to exist when you go to sleep. I don't think any of us would ever want to go to sleep. But most of us love sleep and most of us don't get enough of it, sleep deprivation. So if you feel that you are never going to wake up, you're going to go into non-existence when you go to sleep. Nobody is going to go to sleep. So the verse is saying, what is Satyam, Brahma? You, Brahma, is that consciousness that is real, that is Satyam. And the definition for Satyam is usually given as Trikala Abadhyam Satyam. So Abadhyam, that which cannot be negated in the 3 periods of time, past, present, and future, that which cannot be negated is Satyam. Existence itself is Satyam. Existence as a noun, not as a verb. So when you say I exist, you're using exist as a verb. This is a nuanced explanation. See, it works for me. I don't know if it will work for you. But when you say existence, use the word existence as a noun, that is Satyam, that is Brahma, that is real. Kim mithya yad vidya nashyam tucham tu shasha vishanadi. So kim mithya, these are terms we've all heard said many times. So what is mithya? Yat vidya nashyam, that which is nashyam, destroyed or removed by what? By vidya, by knowledge. So this concept of mithya is often misunderstood by many teachers to mean false or non-existent, because that's the definition that's also given in the dictionary. But in Vedanta, mithya is more accurately defined as dependent reality or relative truth. So something that is mithya is not false or non-existence, but rather its existence is transient, its existence is changing, its existence is dependent. It relies for its existence on something else, and that something else is the underlying unchanging Satyam, Brahma, that we saw earlier. And because it is constantly, the nature of mithya, because it is changing, it has different names and forms and function, nama, rupa, karma. And the best way to understand that is looking at the example of gold. So you have many different kinds of usages for gold. You can have a gold ring, you can have a golden bangle, you can have a golden necklace. So all these three ornaments have different names, have different forms, and have different functions. Usually you wear a earring in your ears, you wear a nose ring in your nose. Of course, modern fashion, sometimes you see people wearing a bangle in their nose as a nose ring or an earring, but that's personal choice. So the functions, a little bit of a gray area there. But these three ornaments, let's just stick with ring, bangle, and a chain or a necklace. Three different forms, three different names, three different functions. But how many golds are there? There's only one gold that can be made into a ring or a bangle or a chain. I think Pujya Swamiji and maybe even Swami Paramarthananda have joked about this in their classes when they talk about this, and they say, you can, they're talking to an audience and talking about donation. You can keep all your ornaments, but just give your gold as donation. Keep all the ornaments you want. We don't want your ornament. Just give the gold. So from the perspective of gold, there's only one gold. All these ornaments are essentially that one gold. So the ringness, the bangleness, the necklaceness or the chainness are forms, names, forms, and functions that are superimposed on the one gold. So if you melt a bangle, that form of the bangle disappears. So if you melt a bangle, what you get is gold. Of course, somebody is bound to ask, what about the impurities? When you go to these shops in India to put some old ornament and exchange it for something, they will always deduct money for, I forget the Tamil word for it, anybody remember? It's basically they're deducting money for the impurities that are present in the gold. I don't remember the name. So when you melt a bangle, you get gold. The form has changed, the name has changed, the function has changed. Similarly for any of the other forms, the ring or the chain, but the ring or the ring or the chain, what remains is gold. So in this example, gold is the underlying satyam or sat, which is the existence for all the different ornaments that can be formed from that gold. All these ornaments, all these different forms, so gold is satyam, all these ornaments are mithya. Because they are transient, they can be changed, they are constantly changing. We do that. You go to a shop, you get tired of wearing a piece of jewelry, you go to the shop, you want to exchange it for something else. You're changing the form. But all of these forms depend on the one gold for their existence. So just as the knowledge of the underlying one gold removes the ignorance, the mithyaness or mithyatva of the gold, so too the knowledge of your essential nature as Atma removes the mithyaness, mithyatva of who you truly are, of the jiva, the jagat, the jiva, the individual, jagat, the entire world, and even Ishvara, God. From the perspective of Satyam, from the perspective of the underlying reality, all these three are mithya: jiva, jagat, and Ishvara. And this sometimes people don't have a hard time digesting. Ishvara, you mean even God is mithya, but we have to look at it God with form. Saguna Brahman, God with our concept of a murti or our concept of a God wherever, sitting in whichever loka. All these are mithya, have distinct names and forms, but they all depend on that one underlying sat. So in the wake of knowledge, mithya is understood for what it is, a dependent reality. And this duality that arises because of jiva, jagat, Ishvara, the knowledge that removes that duality is what destroys mithya. Kim mithya? What is mithya? Yat vidya nashyam, that which gets destroyed by knowledge. And then tucham tu. And then what is tucham? Tucham means total or absolute non-existence, and the answer is given shasha, vishana, adi. Shasha, vishana. Vishana means horn, shasha means a rabbit or a hare, and adi, etc. So things that are like a horn of a rabbit, which is not existence, which does not exist. So unlike mithya, like that gold or the ornament we saw, the existence of mithya depends on the underlying reality, on the underlying reality, sat. But tucham is absolute non-existence. That means something that it is logically impossible for it to exist. And so it doesn't have an underlying substratum. It doesn't depend on anything to exist because it's not existent. It cannot even be perceived. Have any of you seen a rabbit with horns? You know, maybe in sci-fi movies or what is that, an alternate universe, you can get whatever you want. But in the universe we are living in, you might have some genetically modified, in some weird research lab, they might have some genetically modified rabbit which has horns. But we're talking about our common day experience. So a rabbit with a horn is completely non-existent. And other examples that they give in scripture are Vandhyaputra, the son of a barren woman, somebody who is unable to conceive. A son of somebody who is unable to conceive is illogical. We're not talking about adopted children or foster parents, somebody who's given birth, biological. And a square circle. These are impossibilities. So why does Vedanta talk about tucham? Why does it even bring? Isn't satyam and mithya enough? So by talking about tucham, Vedanta is telling us that jiva, jagat and Ishvara, the individual, the entire world and Ishvara are all mithya that we all experience. They exist, but they are not the ultimate reality. They depend on satyam. At the same time, Vedanta is not saying that jiva, jagat, Ishvara are tucham, they are non-existent, because we see the world, we experience, have experiences. They are not logical absurdities. So that's why Vedanta talks about tucham. The world we see does exist. It is relatively real. It is not absolutely real. But the rabbit's horn or the square circle are logical impossibilities, do not exist, period. Kacha nirvachaniya maya kim kalpitam dvaitam chaka, and what is anirvachaniya. Anirvachaniya literally means, the first meaning in the dictionary says, I think, what is not to be spoken, what is not to be mentioned. But here in a Vedantic sense, anirvachaniya is indescribable. What cannot be categorically explained as something that it exists or not exists. What appears as though real but isn't. And the answer is Maya. So what is, the translation says, what is indeterminable as either real or unreal? And the answer is Maya. The best translation for Maya is Maya. There is no one English word equivalent to explain what Maya is. In Vedanta, though, Maya can be described as a Shakti, as a power, the creative capacity which conceals Brahman, which conceals the absolute reality Brahman. So Maya, we see this universe of variety and change. So Maya is what caused, but we know that this universe, Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, depend on that underlying Satyam, on the one unchanging reality. So Maya is what causes this one non-dual Brahman, one unchanging, undecaying reality to appear as this manifold world we see. This manifold, this diverse, constantly changing, transient world. And Swami Paramartha likes to use the word triad or triangular format, Paramarthananda-ji, for Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara. We saw that, and he likes to say this, I've heard him say this many, many times. When we are in this quote-unquote triangular format of Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara, we feel that I am this Jiva, this helpless, miserable critter, always being persecuted, being threatened by this vast Jagat, by this universe, by all the things that are happening, by this interaction with the universe. And then what do? I run to Ishvara. I run to Ishvara and say, save me, save me. So he says, this is samsara, living in this triangular format, living in this constant fear of duality of Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara causes a lot of fear. So if Maya is the creative capacity because of which that one non-dual Brahman appears as this multi-fold, multivariate universe, the next question is, oh, so there are two things. There's Brahman and there's Maya. But we are studying Advaita Vedanta, non-dual. So Maya is not a thing, quote unquote thing, that exists separate from Brahman. It is Brahman's inexplicable, anirvachaniya, indescribable capacity to appear as this universe, as this diverse universe. So it's that same Brahman. Maya is what causes that one Brahman to appear like this, like everything we see around us. And there is a very nice refrain in this short text Maya Panchakam, which explains this very well. This Maya Panchakam is written by, is actually from portions of it from Swami Vidyaranya's Panchadashi text. And this line I really like. It says, Aghatita Ghatana Patiyasi Maya. So Maya is Patiyasi, very capable, very able of what? Aghatita Ghatana. Ghatana is an incident or a thing, aghatita, making something, making the impossible possible. That is what Maya is. And I really like this Maya Panchakam, so hopefully we'll get a chance to study it here. Maya is also mithya, constantly changing, transient, depending on the underlying satyam. Kim kalpitam, what is made or what is fabricated, what is apparently created? The answer is dvaitam. This duality that we see is quote unquote apparently created because of Maya. There is a verse from Gaudapada in Mandukya Karika. Gaudapada was Adi Shankaracharya's grand guru. And the verse says, Mano grihitam eva idam yat kinchit sacharacharam. Idam, this world, this entire jagat, yat kinchit sachara acharam. So whatever chara means to move, whatever is animate and whatever is acharam, what is non-moving, animate or inanimate, is mana grihitam, manas grihitam, is grasped or perceived by the mind, eva, alone. Manaso hyamani bhave, he, because amani bhave manasaha, when the mind is falsified, when the mind disappears, when the mind is understood to be mithya, dvaitam, duality, na eva upalabhyate, is not experienced, is not perceived. So an enlightened person, does an enlightened person see the world as non-dual? No, the enlightened person, if he or she has functional eyes, is seeing the duality in the world. But the enlightened person knows that this duality of Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara is not real. It is apparently created, it is kalpitam, it is, they've used the word superimposed in the PDF. I'm not sure superimposed is the exact direct translation. Kalpitam I would take as fabricated or apparently created. Kim paramarthikam syat advaitam yad ya agnyata kutaha yad, sorry, it's chagnyata kutaha anadihi. So kim paramarthikam syat, what is absolute real or what is absolute reality? And the answer is advaitam, non-duality. So in Advaita Vedanta, there are reality itself, there are three kinds of reality, three levels of reality, Sattatraya or Vividha Satta. One is Paramarthikam Satta, which is the absolute ultimate reality, Brahman, which remains unchanged in all three periods of time, past, present, and future. We just saw that. The second is Vyavaharika Satta, empirical or transactional reality. This is mithya. This is the world that we live in our waking state. This is the world of names, forms, and functions that we interact with when we are awake. But it is subject to change. It is not constant, it is transient, it is constantly changing, and it is a relative or a dependent reality. As we saw, it depends on the underlying satyam or sat. And the third satta, the third level of reality is pratibhasika satta, which can be translated as subjective reality, like in our dream. So in our dream, we are projecting things that are subjective, only related to us in the dream. When you wake up, that projection is over, that projected reality is no longer present. So the uniqueness of Advaita, so it says what is Paramarthikam, Paramarthikam, Advaitam, this highest level of reality is the ultimate reality. Advaita Vedanta is unique in distinguishing three levels of reality. So in Advaita Vedanta, the Paramarthikam Satta, the Paramarthikam is the absolute reality. Cha kutaha agnyata, and from where, cha kutaha agnyata, the state of being ignorance, literally that's the translation. So where does ignorance come from? And the answer is anadihi. Adi means end, anadi, no end, no beginning. Ignorance doesn't have a beginning, it is anadi avidya. There is a verse which is often used to distinguish, to identify 6 types of categories which come under beginningless. Shad anadi. Jiva, Isho, Vishuddha Chit, Tatha Jiva, Jivesha Yoho Bhida. Jivaha, the individual, the localized individual, meaning that ego, that sense of I, doesn't have a beginning. Ishaha, the personal God, the Saguna Brahman, the God that we think as a creator, doesn't have a beginning. Vishuddha Chit, pure or unconditional. Chit means Chaitanyam, consciousness. Vishuddha is unconditional or pure Chit, doesn't have a beginning. Tatha, and Jiva Ishayoho Bhida, the separation between the Jiva and Ishvara. Avidya tat cha yogascha shad asmakam anadayaha. So avidya, the ignorance that we are all born with. I don't think anybody is born enlightened. You know, you see a newborn baby, you're not enlightened. I mean, you're enlightened, you're not ignorant. That will be the day, I think. So we are all born ignorant with tat cha yogascha, and the connection between tat, between that ignorance and Vishuddha Chit, that pure consciousness, the unconditional consciousness. Shad asmakam, these are 6 for us, anadaya, considered to be beginningless. So even though ignorance does not have a beginning, so the commonality between ignorance and Vishuddha Chit, consciousness, unconditional consciousness, both are beginningless, but ignorance can come to an end, whereas consciousness, there is no end to consciousness. So it's like if you take the Sanskrit language, like many of you are doing in the 6-month online course, if you don't know the Sanskrit language, when you learn the language, when you don't know the Sanskrit language, you have ignorance of the language. But when you learn the language, You are no longer ignorant. That ignorance comes to an end. In the same way, if you have ignorance of consciousness as your essential nature of Atma, in the wake of knowledge, that ignorance of the self goes away, and when you become enlightened. So, ignorance has no beginning, but it has an end. Consciousness has no beginning, no end. Okay, you can see one more verse. Vapushchascha poshakam kim prarabdham chanadayikim chayuhu. So cha kim, and what is poshakam vapushaha? What is poshakam? What is what nourishes or supports vapushaha for the body? What is the support of the body? What nourishes the body? Here the answer is not annam, food, as we saw in an earlier verse. Here the answer is prarabdham. Prarabdha meaning karma. So what is it that keeps this body going? That's the sense of this verse. So this prarabdham karmas, we saw in several classes, that these are karmas that when you do an action, there are the drishtaphala, the seen results, and the unseen results, adrishtaphala. And many times these unseen results are pending. They have not yet come to bear. So these unseen results can fructify in any time. So for the countless number of karmas or actions we have done, there is countless number of karma phala, these unseen results that are pending. Prarabdha literally means begun or commenced. So it refers to the results that have come, that have given rise to this life for us in this body, and they continue to unfold during this life. This law of karma, the doctrine of karma and free will, is a huge topic that we will not cover in this class, but I would recommend you to watch an excellent series, 3-part series of videos that Swamiji made several years back called Doctrine of Karma. It is if you've not listened to that, worth listening. A lot of your questions on karma and free will be answered in those videos. So prarabdham is that which sustains this body. Vapushaha poshakam is the sustainer of this body. So the prarabdha karma fructified, the karmas of all our past countless actions that did not give us results in those countless lives have fructified to give us this life, give us the result of this life, of this body. And they continue to fructify during our life. So for example, if you're diagnosed with an illness in this life and you've lived a very healthy life, that is an example of a prarabdha karma that is being fructified from a prior action that you've committed. So when all the prarabdha karmas are exhausted in this lifetime, what happens? We die. This body, this life is over. So this is something to remember when we face the death of a loved one. This is the natural order of things. That person has exhausted his or her prarabdha, and this body is going to not be there in this form. So it gives you some, of course, when you hear of somebody having lost a loved one, please don't go and tell them it is their prarabdha karma. That is very harsh and very causes a lot of himsa. So you know, even if they understand Vedanta at the time of that loss, it's obviously not the right time to say somebody has passed away because of their prarabdha. Many times, and just a side note, many times people find it very awkward when they go to give condolence to someone. you don't know what to say. I mean, obviously you're sharing you feel the loss, you feel the other person's grief. Sometimes you don't have to say anything. If you don't have the right words to say, don't say anything, just be there with the person. Just be there. Your presence for that person is more than enough, showing that you're sharing their life, their grief with them. Definitely not to say their prarabdha caused this. Cha kim, and what or who is annadayi? Who is the giver? Who provides the food? Who is the nourisher? The answer is ayuhu. Ayus means life or longevity, duration of life, meaning the lifespan. This is a pretty obvious answer. Your lifespan, which provides you with this life, which determines how long you live. This lifespan, of course, is determined by many factors. How you live your life, your habits, genetics. A lot of it is determined by genetics, environment. All these factors determine our lifespan, but underlying all these factors is our karma accumulated over lifetimes. So when you don't have ayus, when you don't have a life, or when this prarabdha karmas have come to an end, you don't have a life, you don't have a lifespan, you're dead. That's as simple. There's it's not a very profound answer. A lifespan, you live as long as you live. So with that we can end this class. An announcement I wanted to make. We have the first Saturday of the month, we have a stotra class that we hold in student homes, and in this class we learn a small stotra, chanting the meaning of this, proper chanting the meaning of the stotra, and we do a meditation, a small mental meditation, mental puja and a meditation, taking some aspect of that stotra. That is going to be held today at 5 o'clock in a student home. Pinky is not here today, but if you would like to join the flyer, I think it's a purple flyer on the lobby, you're welcome to contact her, add your name to the email list. And if you want to attend today, you can talk to me after class. We just needed to give a head count because we have prasad after the program. So just so that the host is not overwhelmed with 20 more people joining in. Okay. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all for coming. I'll see you next week.